bad news. Johnny said, don't worry, baby, I'll take care of you. They had a wedding party for their family and a few close friends. The party's over. It was fun while it lasted, but it ain't no fun no more. The party's over, and now they wonder what they hurried for. Yes, they wonder what they hurried for.
Why does such a permissive attitude towards sex prevail in our culture today? I believe one of the greatest reasons is the lies that the media is telling us. In fact, a Junior Achievement Report recently said that the media, which includes TV, movies, and radio, recently ranked third in influencing the behavior of teenagers, only behind parents and peers. This is a dramatic shift from the 1960s when it ranked eighth, behind not only parents and peers, but teachers, relatives, and even religious leaders.
I was watching TV recently with my son. A condom commercial came on. This woman dances into a store and she gets 2 packets. She drops it into her purse, and then the next silhouette shows her having sex, not making love, having sex with her boyfriend. Then the next silhouette shows her taking a shower in the morning, putting on a big bathrobe. She walks out and has a cup of coffee with her roommate. And then she says this, last night I became a woman. What were you, an armadillo yesterday?
What is the media teaching this generation? The average person views 9,230 sex acts or implied sex acts a year on television. 81% of these sexual encounters are outside of marriage. 94% of the sexual relationships in soap operas are between people who are not married to each other. TV advertising consistently suggests that our sex life will improve if we'll just wear designer jeans, the latest tennis shoes, put on certain colognes, even smoke the right cigarettes. Our movie theaters are full of teen sex flicks that were popularized in recent years by Porky's, Bo Derek's 10, Kevin Costner's Sizzle Beach, USA, John Ritter's Skin Deep, each plot generally depicting that the cure for everything is to jump in bed. In a 4-city study in Michigan, 77% of the girls had seen the 6 top R-rated films that year. Not one was ever challenged at the box office, although all of them were underage. Each movie contained at least 8 instances of sexual intercourse among unmarried people. One had 14. Even MTV has gotten into the action with the likes of the seductive Lita Ford, Gene Simmons of Kiss singing about putting the X back in sex, and of course Madonna and her ever-increasing string of steamy lyrics and music videos.
The tragedy is that television does not tell us the truth about irresponsible sex. If you're 16 years old, you've probably already seen over 50,000 scenes of sexual activity on television. And yet, let me ask you this. When was the last time you can remember someone on TV contracting a sexually transmitted disease? It happens 33,000 times a day in real life. When was the last time you saw someone on Love Boat get pregnant from one of their encounters? When was the last time you saw someone say no to premarital sex? It just doesn't happen. The book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse number 7 says, be not deceived. In other words, don't be lied to. God is not mocked, for whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. Stop being lied to, young person. You see, people on television, including JR, never have to pay the price for casual sex. Only you have to do that in real life.
Starting to realize that I was never going to have a child come up to me and call me father and put his arms around me and tell me that he loved me. And knowing that when I went to work, if I could ever have a job, normal job, and normal lifestyle, that I would never have a decent woman that loved me or cared about me. And all these things built up to a point of wanting to commit suicide.
Perhaps the greatest contributor to the teen sex problem in North America is right at home. Inattentive parents and a skyrocketing divorce rate have created a famine of love in many, many families. The average parent today spends 14 minutes a week in communication with their teenager. The divorce rate has skyrocketed from 1 in every 36 marriages ending in divorce in the 1930s to 1 in every 2 in the 80s. I recently spoke with some young girls about their sexual involvement and how they ended in unwanted pregnancies. I asked them what their relationship was like with mom and dad.
I was abused by my father, my real father, in my home. The view that I had of my father was so distorted because I loved him on the one hand, but yet the things that were happening in my life made me want to hate him.
My brothers were the ones that taught me the facts of life. They taught me this and they taught me that. My dad was he went out and made the money in the family, and he and I weren't very close.
What kind of relationship did you have with your own father?
I was molested at 3.
God gave the children to the parents. He didn't give them to the church, and he didn't give them to the public. So sex education is the primary function of the family.
One of the greatest things I can do for my children is to provide them a model of how a man ought to love a woman. And so whenever we have, and research shows the number one desire of a lower age teenager, 13, 14, and 15, is a happy home life. The number one fear is a loss of a parent through divorce, all the way down to 7 years of age. The number one fear today is a loss of a parent through divorce.
You know, family relationships are never easy to work through, but God has answers that are practical for every one of us. It says in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse number 1, that children or young people should obey their parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment, with the promise that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. And it goes on to say, you fathers and mothers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. First of all, young person, you may not understand why your mom and dad ask you to do things or not to do things, but understand this. God has given you authorities in your life to protect you, to keep you from harm. And He's promised you that if you'll obey them and honor them, that He'll give you a long life and a good life. And fathers and parents and moms, I want to speak to you just for a moment. Be there for your kids. Your young people need you more than they need anyone else in the world. Give them guidelines and values to live by. Show them affection so that they don't have to go somewhere else to try to find it. Most of all, be an example that they can look to in godly relationships. You know, you can lose a lot of things. You can lose money and you can get money in another place. You can lose your job and find another job somewhere. But if you lose your kids, you can never replace them.